Hello, viewers. We are here at the Sports Trend Studio, and today with us is a person. Whenever something happen in Cricket Canada, mostly good or bad, everybody think like, okay, this is behind everything is Ranjit Saini. So we thought, okay, let's get that guy. He's kind of shy guy. He doesn't come in front of camera, but now we are thankful to him, and. He's promised me that he will continue keep coming to our programs or any different platforms to update people about cricket Canada and cricket in Canada. So none other than we have Mr. Ranjit Sani with us. He's the president of Cricket Canada. Um, Ranjit Bhai, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Farooq, for inviting me, and I want to actually thank you for inviting me several times. Um, no, I'm not necessarily, media shy, but obviously, one has to be prepared and have things to say, and um, before we before we venture into these sort of things.
Yeah.
I'm head of an organization, so my role and my responsibilities are beyond and a much bigger scope of a normal average cricketer who follows cricket.
Yeah.
Uh, there are several boundaries that I have to respect, and matters are related. Some matters are private matters for players, and some for people that we are in contract with. So confidentiality
Yeah.
is is a component that brings in some hesitation as to what you're able to speak and talk about and so forth. So as an head of the organization, the role is big because while there is a board of directors that work as hard as myself, but
Yeah.
the responsibility to carry the flag, yes, it's mine, and I'm accountable for everything that happens in Cricket Canada. So, thank you.
We're going to ask you a lot of questions about that. But just let me give you a small background. Everybody knows Ranjit Saini. He started with Cricket Canada in 2009 as a vice president, and then in 2010 as a president, and then in 2013 as a director, then in 2016 for 1 year and president, and then again in 2018 as president. So three times he's been president of Cricket Canada, and he's been altogether many years serving Cricket Canada. So thank you for that. And I know like it's um, a big position, and so we're gonna get more details of what exactly your roles and everything. But let's Ranjit bhai, on a lighter note, like what brought you in Cricket Canada? I know, like what was the reason behind?
I think it's more so the question would be should be what brought me to Canadian cricket.
Okay.
So in 2003, my children went to India with my wife,
Uh-huh.
and I did not go because I have had a recent ear surgery, uh, and the doctors were not ready and willing at that time to allow me to travel by air, and so I could not go. At that time, around that time, 2003 or 4 or 2 or something, I don't remember the exact date, but Neil was, as most of you know him, my son. He was in the high school, and Karen, my daughter, was in the elementary school. And so they went to India, and there was a huge festival type atmosphere as Pakistan was visiting India, and when Pakistan had a return visit, and as I said, I don't know the exact year, but I think it was 2002 or three, so somewhere around that. And so uh, when they came back, that time two suitcases were allowed with each passenger, and they had gotten rid of all their clothing, most of their clothing, and all four suitcases were full of cricket gear. the pads and so forth, and then they brought cricket with them, from India. This was the first time they visited India, and they're both born and brought up here. Um, then I took them to cricket ground, and first Neil joined Ontario Cricket Academy with Derek Pereira, and in a very short period we moved to Malton Cricket Club right here where my office is. And so I started to go and follow Neil to the ground, and I'll accompany him, take him there. The club asked me, if I could become a junior coordinator because I was there anyways with the kid, and then so I became the junior coordinator. Uh, T&D at that time introduced the under 17 uh, uh, cricket tournament in this roster. So I had a team in that, and my team won the year under 17 competition was introduced. I had played cricket in my college time when I was studying, and I came to Canada in 1982. From 1982 to 2003, I had no idea where and who played cricket in Canada, whether Canada even played cricket. So I followed my son, and he became very enthusiastic, and then he went to America's under 15 competition and was in a combined team made of few players from each country. I did very well, and so that was my entry into Canadian cricket as a junior coordinator, junior coach with Malton Cricket Club. And thereafter, I became board member with Toronto District Cricket League. I became treasurer with Ontario Cricket Association. And thereafter, I became the first VP. I was also president of Maple Leaf Cricket Club for 2 years. I was the one who hosted Four Nation tournament when Zimbabwe, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Canada played. I was the host of that large tournament. Same year, West Indies full team also visited Canada. So I had the privilege of hosting four full members of the ICC in one given year. As a president of Maple Leaf Cricket Club. So from there on, the advancement to as a first VP to Cricket Canada was very much a natural process because I was in limelight and had gained a whole lot of different type of event management experience. So I moved into Cricket Canada and 2009, soon after, within 4 or 5 months, so few months after my election as a first VP, my predecessor, Mr. Ben Saini, he decided to retire, and so I became what we call the acting president, or the joke was the actor president. And thereafter in 2010, my position was I was elected as president. So this is how all this has happened, thanks to my kids.
So this is interesting. So what do you think? What is the future of Cricket Canada?
I think there's a mixture of the future of Cricket Canada is going to be dictated by how collectively all of us make it to be. It's not. It is not going to be created by itself. It has to be collectively created by players, by people those who follow cricket, cricket administrators, and the sponsors and the governments and everybody together. So we have certain facts at our hand at this moment that could say and narrate as to what the landscape is. What we turn the landscape into will depend on how we handle, on how we manage our resources, how we handle the current situation, and if we are able to build a consensus as to what will come first.
Okay.
The issue has, for many times, for a very long period, the issue has been what comes first.
Okay.
When a competition comes, competition becomes first. Qualify, 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 qualify. The minute competition is over, grassroots, 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 grassroots. So the issue is uh, that that the focus changes continuously, and the focus is not consistent, and for right reasons. You can't tell a current player, a promising player, sorry, my boy, you play well, but I'm not going to support the competition, and I'm going to support the grassroots development instead.
Mhm.
Because players have a time clock, this age clock, and that they are playing well up to a certain age, and then a whole lot of other things, family responsibilities. The biggest problem in Canada, the mortgage on the house and so forth, and the kids, and the when they get married and so forth. So there is a time limitation in a player's life when the player is playing the best, where the player wants to go and play and participate in those competitions. You cannot take away the opportunities and the support to the player to participate in those tournaments. On the other side, the issue is also with the grassroots. If you do not have a bench strength, if you're not creating new players, developing new players constantly, what do you do when this players is now no longer in a position to play for the country?
Yeah.
So the complexity is about that. So, when you only have a limited number of resources, then how do you move from there? How
So
do you what is your priority? So priority setting is number one.
okay.
So in both cases, both matters are priorities. A youth, a young player who is coming through the ranks and is going on to under 19 World Cup, is now, ready to play senior cricket and so forth. You cannot stop his pathway. You cannot stop supporting this person. On the other side, the public demands that the team um, produces something. That team is successful. Who wants to associate with a losing team? Nobody is interested in taking their pictures with a team that is not producing good results. So sponsors also want a winning team. Politicians want a winning team to take pictures with. So the consistent and constant struggle that cricket administrators like myself and my rest of board members we face is what comes first and in what shape and how.
Yeah. So Rajiv,
So
with that point, we're gonna keep coming back to this topic because this is the topic where everybody is very interested. So let's you just mention, your team and your board. So let's start with introduction. Can you explain what is the structure of Cricket Canada, right? And then, so what is the structure of Cricket Canada, and who is helping you with all these things?
so the organization wise, Cricket Canada is the national body, national sports organization,
Okay.
rec- which is recognized by Cricket Canada to produce, manage Canadian teams that represent Canada. We have the authority, we have the empowerment, and we have the duty to produce those teams on behalf of Canada as a country.
Which teams do you produce? Which are the national teams for the cricket?
There are three national teams at
Okay.
this moment. One is the senior national team,
Okay.
and then you have the under 19 boys team, and the third team is the women's team.
Women's team. Okay.
So all these three teams participate in International Cricket Council created tournaments, and they have their World Cups and regional championships and so forth. So we have the responsibility to select, train, and send Canadian teams into these global competitions.
Okay. So back
So
to the
that is,
structure of Cricket Canada.
yeah, that's Cricket Canada. It has that responsibility to create those teams and develop those teams and to participate in this international tournaments run by ICC on behalf of Canada, on behalf of the country. Cricket Canada has 10 members at this moment. All 10 provinces are its members, and that is the only classification of the members that we have. So, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PI, and Newfoundland are the members of Cricket Canada. These four members elect Cricket Canada Board of Directors.
Okay.
So, among the board of directors, we have four what we call officers,
Okay.
and we have four directors. Entire group of 8 people is called board of directors of Cricket Canada. Among them, there are four officers and four are directors at large. The officers are the president, which is at this moment is myself, and you have vice president. His name is Rishwal Bajwa. Rishwal Bajwa comes from BC. And then we have Charles Pace, who is the treasurer. He comes from Quebec.
Mhm.
And the fourth person in the offices is Amanda Puran, and she is a resident of Ontario, and she is the secretary. And then we have four directors at large. Mohammed Sheikh, who is the president of Toronto District Cricket Association. He's director at large, followed up by Ranjit Chaudhary. He comes from Hamilton District League and also is a board member of TND. He is another second director at large from Ontario. And then we have Harjinder Dillon. He comes from British Columbia. And we have Kasim Virk, who comes from Alberta. So these 8 people constitute the board of directors at Cricket Canada. And so, apart from them, there's a non-voting member of the board who is Inga Livert, and he's the general manager of the organization.
And then all this information is available at the Cricket Canada website, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's good. So that's your corporate, and we already talked about the regional structure. So what is the domestic structure and program? Right, when people like the general impression, I think, is something happening in Ontario cricket or TND cricket, or BC cricket. So they think like, okay, Cricket Canada is involved. But I know Cricket Canada is involved in saying, because it's overseeing everything, right? So how much Cricket Canada is putting their hands in each small leagues and pockets? Is that right? Like, or is it just an allegation?
No, we have all these 10 boards of provinces. Each member has their own board.
Yeah.
They govern the affairs within that province. Cricket Canada has no involvement in that governance.
Okay.
Our matters are related to what happens interprovincial and the national championships and the international championships. So
How
our
many
scope is, yeah,
like how many in a year? What is the structure? What is the domestic structure?
well, we run regional tournaments for example, Western T20, Eastern T20, and Central T20. They are to large extent, they're funded by Cricket Canada, and also, to some extent, they're funded by the members also. This is where the regional members, for example, in Central T20 is Ontario and Manitoba. And along with that, I believe to some extent, even Quebec is participating in the Central T20 and also in the Eastern T20. So Quebec is on both sides, and so from that respect, these tournaments are managed and run by the regions themselves, but they are Cricket Canada events. From those events, certain elite players are chosen, and uh, 3 or 4 teams are created, which then converge on to a national championship, elite players, and then the national championship occurs. So that is the pathway and the current pathway and structure of Cricket Canada that we pick up. Regions run their tournaments, regional tournaments, where the provinces participate, and then the selectors choose those elite players or better players from those competitions. That then they are then invited to a national championship where different teams are created under A, B, C, yellow, green, whatever. Each year the name is different. So those 4 teams then play in the national championship, and supposedly, we are supposed to be picking up players from
So
the
that
that competition.
this brought me a very hot topic of selection.
Yes.
I have received so many questions regarding selection from one specific province, right? Um, Different things. So, like first of all, like how the selection committee works, who is in the selection committee, how those members get selected into selection committee, and you pick a boy or a girl. How do you do that?
Well, the general, we first of all, we have a publicly posted selection policy on our website.
Okay.
So, so what happens in the selection committee, who selects the selectors, where they come from, is all described and is publicly posted. It's a public document. If you go to our website and then to the section called About Us, and within that section, you will run into an area called bylaws, policies, and so forth. Within those policies, you will find the selection policy. So it's a public document, number one.
Okay.
It's a this is where if you want to really read thoroughly as to what happens, and this is where it's methodically documented and it's a public document. Now, to be in short, the selectors are nominated by the regions. The selection policy dictates there will be a selector from British Columbia, there will be a selector from Prairies, which is Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. There will be a selector from Ontario, and there will be a selector from east of Ontario provinces, which is Quebec, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, PI, and New Brunswick. So, so the nominations, Cricket Canada Board of Directors select the selectors, but the nominations come from the provinces. We are limited to that list. So we're not going to say Cricket Canada Board is not going to say no, not this, that person. But there might be a conversation between the board members and the province that it will be we might recommend them to ask them to recommend someone, but the selectors when they are appointed from the list and the names provided by the provinces.
And what role do you have in that selection committee?
I am president is a member of all standing committees,
Okay.
including the selection.
But are you a voting member?
No, I'm not a voting member. I'm a non-voting ex officio member. And in my entire life that I have spent at Cricket Canada, I have attended 2 selection meetings
Okay.
so far. So the intent to go into those meetings was to sort of remind what the selectors' roles were, what they was to because now and then things go haywire for one reason or the other, and for example, we say if the player, if any player is being replaced in the national team, the selection committee needs to communicate with that player and give the person the reasons as to why he or she is not being selected. So if there's a change from a current team or previously selected team, then the player ought to know why the person is being replaced, what's the reason.
Hmm.
And that needs to happen prior to announcing the change. But does it happen all the time? Not necessary. And but the rule is you are going to communicate with the player and say, Mr. So and so, for this reason, you will not be playing this tour.
Okay.
Does it happen? Sometimes we have to remind them, but that they are also volunteers. So people are volunteering time to do these duties. So, but the case can be made, and you can say, um, you should take those responsibilities if you're not capable of performing, whether it's paying or non-paying or volunteer or whatever. A case can be made, but here and there these lapses do occur. But the policy dictates the selectors ought to tell the player who is not getting selected as to what the reason was.
Okay.
If provided you were in the team before, otherwise, there are 14,000 players in this country. It's not possible to speak to everyone. But a player who's already made it to the team needs to be told.
Yeah. So what is the compensation structure for Cricket Canada players right now? Are they contracted? They get paid by tour, or I mean, like this is because they put a lot of time. Like as a administrator, the players also put a lot of time. They take time off or anything. So how do they get? Because looks like our cricket is players are not full time players, right? They
No,
have to
they're
choose a
not.
different profession
Yes.
to fulfill their daily requirements. So how does it the financial structure work for Cricket Canada? And do you the Cricket Canada has any um, paid employees or full time employees?
At this moment, we have only one full-time employee, which is the general manager.
Okay,
Inga Libert is the only paid employee, full-time paid employee that we have.
okay,
Now, the players, the senior team players, usually get an allowance to go on a tour. That's the senior team only, I believe.
okay. But is it the enough allowance for people to cover for their
There,
daily
there
expenses?
are there are two types of compensations. One
Okay,
is uh, one you could say for taking time off their work,
okay,
and then there are daily expenses, what we call per diems.
okay,
50, $60, whatever that is per day to have their meals. Usually, the breakfast is covered in the hotel.
hmm,
And on the match days, the lunch is covered on the ground, is given by the host. And then usually the dinner is always players have to take themselves to cover the dinner and the lunch on non-match days. Uh, Per diem per day is given. It's usually averages $50, and sometimes it could be 60. Other times ICC, sometimes ICC gives this in tournaments, and other times Cricket Canada has to give that also. But the salaries, if you're away for a week and we're giving $500 lump sum plus the PDs, they are given by Cricket Canada. It depends on the where you're going, what the expenses and so forth. It changes from time to time. But I wouldn't say it's not enough to buy a condo in Florida, but it, does replaces the average wage of a person.
mm, okay. So let's talk about like what's the future plans for Cricket Canada? Like like we have to do again. We have got to the path of qualifying, right? We have to qualify for a lot of things. Um, we already qualified to play World Cup for under 19 and under 19 going in January, which is a good thing. They did quite decent last time too, and now they're gonna go. So congratulations to all the players who selected for under 19. What are the future plans for Cricket Canada? When is the next qualification for either World Cup or ODI status, and how are we working towards those?
Well, for the World Cup, there's another different route.
Okay.
That is called the Challenge League. And this is
Mhm.
in this year we went to Malaysia,
Yeah.
and we were the number one team in that tournament. Um, so we're going again in March uh, the next year, and then so that will the leaders in this group will get another chance to go to the qualifier for the World Cup. This is something what we missed in Namibia when we did not become an ODI country. We still have a chance through the Challenge League. So that is where in March Great Ghana will be going. We have another T20. We exactly do not know if it's going to be a qualifier or it's going to be based on rankings yet. But Cricket Canada has requested through our ICC board members that there be another qualifier to qualify for 2021 T20 World Cup. Yeah, if your viewers are not aware, there is going to be a World Cup of T20 in 2020 in Australia, and there's going to be following year in 2021 there is going to be another World Cup for T20. So in two continuous years we'll have two World Cups. So we do not know exactly as to what the rules would be and what the qualification pathway would be to the 2021 T20 World Cup,
Hmm.
but we are hoping it's a qualifier because the world rankings, the North American country or the American countries have very little chance because we are far away from Europe and Asian countries where a lot of cricket is played with between ICC members. You have to play certain level of teams to improve your world rankings. You can't just keep playing against some countries, in Americas, which have, Panama or some other South American countries and keep beating them and improve your rankings in ICC. It doesn't improve much. So, so the qualification round competition is what we have asked as a preference, but we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So that is where it will be.
So for that, like for last two qualification, we started really good. We came really close. We almost there, and then we just collapsed. Right. I want to know the feelings and the wordings of President Cricket Canada. Right. How do you feel that, and what's your message? We always say cricket is a game of chance and all those kind of thing, but if something is happening continuously, right, people have their own says. So what the president of Cricket Canada say about that?
Um, Farag Bhai is a extremely loaded question,
Yeah,
right? And
because this is the question everybody want to ask,
it's
right?
a very emotional question also as to because it's sort of the question is likely going to bring out personal emotions as to how we felt when it didn't happen, and it also then I have to keep reminding myself I'm the president of Cricket Canada. So I have to sort of manage my own feelings,
Yeah, we are
uh,
all human, and by no
right?
issue.
In order to before I say things, but uh, I would say many of us would have had a very bad day when we did not qualify for the ODI status. It
Mhm.
ruined our day, it ruined our lives, and we were extremely saddened. We all thought that we had probably never in our history supported our team to the extent that we did for this tour of Namibia. So So it's, I mean, and I have spoken to players, by the way. There is a feeling out there as if we did not collect or spoke to the players or the coaches or the staffs, and those who went with the team. We have, I personally spoke to 6 players right here in my office, and almost 3 to 4 hour session where we went through a whole lot of stuff. All the players like the coach. They so yes, somebody said, people said that coach probably should have been for a little bit more longer time with the team prior to the tournament. But there are incremental issues that occur in an organization as to what happens and when it happens. Organizations are not. It's just like Cricket Canada are not a personal property of me or any of the board of directors or all of the board directors. They say organizations function in a more systemic way to do the things.
Hmm.
For example, there was a budget which was presented to the members at the AGM in the early part of the year.
Hmm.
That budget says senior team budget is $150,000. Senior program is $150,000. So this is what you have to do indoor practices prior to going selections um, for coaches and support staffs,
Hmm.
per diems of the players, the daily allowance, and the salaries. And so this in all training portion of the team, you are paying. For example, if you went to Sri Lanka, that was a Cricket Canada funded totally program. That's not ICC. So when you go to the tour, you land in Namibia. This is when this is where the hotel and the per diems are paid by ICC. The rest is all Cricket Canada.
Yeah.
So to cover that is $150,000. How do you prepare a team, take them to training camps, because we are a country with 4 month season. You have to have on-field practice before you go to these competitions.
Hmm.
So we first arranged to go to Antigua with West Indies, only to realize that they were ready, that we will get the facility, but we will not get any teams to play. This happens very close to the qualifier. A few months before the qualifier, you realize that you're going to have the facility. You can go to Antigua, but you're not going to have a competing team.
Hmm.
We hastily try to arrange with Trinidad Tobago, which has a little more wider and bigger team structure, clubs and so forth.
Hmm.
That doesn't happen. Now we are very close to the competition, and you're not an ODI country. You're not at a certain level that people say, "Oh yes, Canada wants to come and play with us. Great, we will play with them." No, very few people or very other countries or teams or quality teams are ready to play with you because you are not at certain level. So all those things are coming to play as to where you could go and what you can do. Eventually, at the last minute, I Cricket kind of had a relationship with Institute of Sports from Nagpur for a long period of time. But then you cannot go to India either, where you can have teams. Certain members of the team would not go to Pakistan. So where would you go? Because Pakistan is supposed to be, a so-called unsafe country, and you cannot go to India because certain number of your players will not get visa on time.
Yep.
So all these constraints are there. South Africa is already running into their intense portion of their season, and so they are not, you can go to Zimbabwe. So within all these constraints as to who is ready to play with you and who is available, and where it would be and at what cost, all these come into play.
Yeah.
So because we've had a previous relationship with iOS, and we approach iOS and we say, can you do this in Sri Lanka? Because Sri Lanka is a country where most
Oh,
of our players could go.
sure.
All players could go. And there's a visa on arrival. There's, certain people can get visas, and so forth. So Sri Lanka is chosen, and ISO from India, they gave us the coach, which has now been, he has been now appointed a batting coach by West Indies for the senior team. So Monty Desai is now the official batting coach of West Indies senior team.
Yeah.
He just recently joined. So the quality of the coach is there. The staffs is there. So we go, and I would say this is what I'm hearing. When the training has happened, and I'm taking, there are two Canadian coaches with it. Henry and Daulat went with the team from Canada. Other coaches are brought by IOSSR. The idea is while our players are going through the training, our Canadian coaches are also learning or getting information as to what happens in preparatory tours.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win situation for everybody. But I will admit that I do get a complaint or a concern that the competition that was arranged, except for one or two teams, most of the other teams were also not of good caliber that gave the competition to in that tour. So that is given that, and now given the circumstances, the time and when and how all this occurred, there is and because the coaching part is receiving very high marks. Overall, I consider the tour was successful.
Mhm.
So the what public and people do not know the environment in which Cricket Canada is functioning at that time. Here, resource wise, the money and funds that are available, who is willing to play with us or host us, and who is available, and at what cost. So those are, no one in Cricket Canada gets up, or any of my board members or myself. We don't wake up every day morning and say, I'm going to go to the office now and I'm going to do something wrong purposely. You see, and then also as a part of our duty, and then in these discussions, you can't simply say, for example, I just talked about West Indies,
Yeah.
Antigua, an arrangement. Now, we're very, very thankful to West Indies of supporting Cricket Canada. Cricket Canada is largely at a certain level today because of the help and support from West Indies. For example, if West Indies did not give their team to Global T20 Year One, we would not have the sanction. If you didn't do the year one, you may not do the year two. The year one gave us enormous knowledge and an experience to Cricket Canada, and also to Mercury. They were Mercury at that time, and now they become Bombay Sports Company Limited. Experience to both sides of this enormous undertaking of that experience was taken for year one, and West Indies was behind it.
Yeah.
That tournament year one would not happen without West Indies. And then they sent their team to our cricket fest. They also took our team into the West Indies Super 50 last year, previous year, and this year also. So the fundamental question here is, when I say the competition was not available, I am not. I would say, I want to clarify this. this is not a blame or complaint against West Indies. They have their internal structure. Their players are busy in other tournaments in CPL and domestic tournaments, so forth.
Mhm.
If they go in the middle of there and they hang up, stand up one day, say, "Hey, West Indies, give me a team," it's not going to happen. They have their own structure to run as well. But to the maximum extent that they are able to help us, they do help us. So releasing this kind of information public for public to know why we went to Sri Lanka, why not there, or why this happened and that happened, is usually, sometimes it's not possible, because it could be construed or read or understood as different, and you could put a very very important relationship online.
Okay.
So
No,
so when I give you another example. This year, when our team went to West Indies, the Dolman team participated in this year CWI Super 50. The president of CWI, Ricky Starrett, at the middle of the night, came to receive me on the airport to pick me up, and he dropped me personally in the hotel. And that was, my plane landed at 11 o'clock. I was out by 11:45 because of immigration forms and so forth. And also, I happened to walk a little bit slow because of my feet is hurt, and I also don't want to be seen on wheelchair at the airport. So this is enormous respect to Cricket Canada, to me as a person, and so forth, and that we enjoy such a big relationship. So what I want him to say is, no, it's not always possible to to talk about certain events publicly or certain players publicly, because there are confidential issues. There are, some elements of the what happens is very personal nature and so forth.
yeah.
And So it is, people need to have trust in their leadership, and the members do, those who have elected these board members, and that people don't get up in the morning just to mess up things.
Yeah.
What is produced is what is possible,
Yeah.
the best possible.
I'm sure people are after hearing this, people will start trusting. I think a lot of people do trust you, and then people will be more start trusting you, and then in our next programs, we'll hear more about that. Especially like there's the coaching thing. It's a whole, we need a whole different program for that, right? And so that will. So one thing I want to know, you talk about the future of cricket in future plans in Cricket Canada and cricket in Canada. The why cricket is not has not grown in Canada as a career, right? What's the president of Cricket Canada thought is like whether cricket is not grown as a profession or a career. Um, what a person need to do to become they want to know and adopt the cricket as a career.
You see, the one aspect of this question is that we need to understand our geographic position, our demographics. This is a huge country, number one. That limits as to how many times you can travel to other places, or the cost of travel, the cost of hotels, and so forth. On top of it, you also have a very short season, 3 months, 4 months at the most. 4 months if you're capable of playing or want to play in rain and wet grounds, then 4 months. Otherwise, is between 2.5 to 3 months at the most, when you can play quality cricket on a good ground. So the season is short.
But Ranjit bhai, like it's like between Canada and England is not much difference. It's in Canada it's probably 3.5, 4 month. England 4.5. It's not much difference. I talked to quite a few people in England and here.
Yeah, it's understood, and I thought that question was coming, so I have given a thought to this before I came. the the population that supports cricket in Canada has been very transitory. Obviously, people from British Islands were the first one to come. So the Irish, the Scottish, the English, when they came to the country, that was the first wave of cricket immigrants that came to this country, and the nature of the cricket was what it was then. Thereafter, they were followed by the people from West Indies. So the nature of cricket was very much managed by the immigrants, incoming wave of immigrants that came from West Indies. And now the it has turned into South Asia. People from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka form the main group of new Canadians that are contributing towards cricket. But never in the history of Canadian cricket became a mainstream sport. It, it stayed a very much an immigrant game. Now, for the first time in Canadian history, you have more than 130,000 Canadian school children. This is an audited number. It's not, a number from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Close to 130,000 Canadian kids have been introduced through the efforts of Cricket Canada and some provincial organizations. So, first time the cricket has gone into the schools. First time the cricket has gone into universities. Some universities are playing, but Cricket Canada efforts have largely been into school cricket. So what you're looking for now is a transition, a program to pathway for the school cricketers to come into the senior cricket and play hardball cricket. Also because school cricket is very much indoor cricket, and because our schools close in summer. So the cricket that is played by the school children is an off season, and it's very much in the area of James with a little bit indoor ball. These are the challenges of the times. For the last 2-3 years, Cricket Canada has been trying and making efforts to introduce a youth league that plays in the weekdays in the grounds that are available to cricket at this moment in different parts of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The effort has intensified recently, and I'm hoping that either this year in the 2020 or by 2021, we should be able to run a pilot program in some municipality or some city somewhere where we are able to introduce a youth cricket league during weekdays, a longer version of the league. The school version of the league at this moment is very much T20 type cricket. And the summer league that is played on the weekends largely in Toronto District Cricket League in Toronto. And if there is any other league, I think there's one in BC where that plays in same part on the weekend, a shorter form of cricket, T20, T25, something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the cricket you're going to be teaching or you want the youth to learn, because it does not build the stamina. So inherently, the core issue of Canadian cricket is that most of it is played very enthusiastically with full dedication, but much of it is also purposeless. In the sense, when I say purposeless, I mean the planning for the match does not happen at a significant level. Match is not planned, the roles are not planned, and somehow the culture of hit and run is paramount. And we're seeing in the development league, we're seeing in the behavior of our players, and most of them, that no matter how much a coach teaches or what the instructor role is given prior to the match, it lasts only for 5-10 matches, and then there comes a shot that was never planned and never thought of, and people get out.
Yeah.
So the bowling side is doing well, but the batting side is not doing well because T20 culture is sitting into the behavior of the players, into the muscle memory, and it's a challenge. Uh, that that how you going to deal with this problem.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that is going to be a longer version of youth cricket that is introduced in the weekdays in the summer when universities are off and schools are off and the players are available. Uh, so that is going to be one of the key components which will deal with the problem relating to the player behavior, playing behavior in the ground. That is a fundamental issue. Second part of the issue is the awareness, cricket awareness. I think cricket awareness question is now being dealt with quite aggressively since global T20 has come. Governments, business, sponsors are becoming aware of the importance of cricket, and there's a lot more interest. Cricket Canada is working right now with a company called TTG. This is 210 Group. These are the people, those who took care of the sponsorship for 2010 Olympics, and that Canada hosted. They raised over close to $800 million for that part of that competition, and the Winter Olympics that we hosted as a country. They are going to be looking after the sponsorship portion of cricket. Of Cricket Canada and cricket organizations that would want to help, seek avail their help. An agreement has been signed up with this group. They have not fully started to work on it because there was there's some delay in paying the fee on our part. But nothing could be better than bringing 210 Group on board, which is a very professional organization, and so they will start working on it. Now, it's easier to say why sponsorship is not there or what it should be there. But sponsorship is a business deal. The sponsor wants to know how many people are going to be looking at their logo or looking at their product, or it's not what people think. You'll be surprised to hear one recent incident that I went through. We recently there was a selection camp of the under 19 players to the team that we just announced.
Mm-hmm.
So I was invited to address or meet with the players, and I went there. And largely I stayed away from it just because I think I want to get involved at the time when they start playing as a team or practicing as a team, rather than showing up in a selection meeting and get all sort of comments whether I had something to do with the selection. So, and I asked a question, and then I do believe that development team did very well in West Indies, and that would be a team that the under 19 players would be looking to get into next after they have played the World Cup underneath. The next level will be the development team. So I asked the players, we have 18, 19 players there, all the coaches and selectors are there, and I thought I was asking a very intelligent question from my perspective. I wanted them to tell me, from their perspective, as to what was done well and what was not done well by the development team in CWI Super 50 tournament. I asked the question, and there was no answer. Everybody sitting quiet. And then I became curious, and I said, "Okay, now tell me, how many of you watched those games because they were live?" Everybody's quiet. My mind told me, and I was reading, these people, these guys probably don't even know what I'm talking about. So now I forced an answer. I said, raise your hands who all watch one or more games of Canada in CWA 50. 3 hands were put up. And in front of me is sitting Canada's national under 19 team. Now we're talking sponsorship. If there was a sponsor for the team development team that went to Cricket West Indies, and my under 19 team, only 3 players watch this, what is the value coming back to the sponsor who would have sponsored the team to Super 50?
But
So,
at that point, I'm going to interrupt because see this. It could be. I mean, I'm not going to blame anyone, and I'm not saying it's the job of the marketing team and the branding team, right? Either the branding team of the West Indies 50 plus or Cricket Canada or anybody who is related to that. Because if the branding or marketing is not out there and everybody who's following cricket in Canada, if doesn't know about that, right, nobody's going to watch. So that's a whole different separate issue. We'll talk about that in
fully
the coming
appreciate what
program.
I'm saying. What I was wanting to coming to was that the sponsorship is going to happen when there's awareness.
Okay.
If the eyeballs are not on the game, on the team, sponsor is not getting a value. So after Global T20, the awareness about cricket has grown. So this is why we are saying that now there is a fertile ground
Yep.
to get sponsorships.
So that brought me a question of what is the Cricket Canada has a branding team or a marketing team?
Uh, we had a brand officer
Okay.
who, because of issues best known to the board, and the job was eliminated this year because of financial or other constraints. So at this moment, there's none.
Okay.
We are we are taking steps. For example, we brought TTG on board, which is a very professional organization, which will now start processes in that direction. And we are also in the process of appointing a media officer who will deal with those portions. So actions are being taken to correct this situation. But this then goes back to the earlier question, the resources. As to you hire a coach or you hire a branding team. You hire a branding team, you don't have a coach. You have a coach, you have no money to play, to practice. If you are practicing and you also have players now you need tours.
Yeah.
So unless you have 1.6 to $2 million in the bank, you cannot run an effective senior program.
Yeah.
But so this is why the culture of what comes first. We will have to take a time off from shifting priorities to set up proper priorities. and go step by step and understand fully that there's going to be pain on the way. There's going to be something which is not going to be happening first. And it might be something that I want to happen first, but doesn't happen first because the board and the membership says this is first. So, but nevertheless, it is not that it is not known to everybody as to what needs to happen. Everybody knows this to happen. Everybody knows we need to have a multi-day league. We need to have a first-class league. We need to do this. We need to do have an advanced HP program. All these items are known. But then the first and foremost element in all this was where are the resources are coming from. And we are happy to tell you, we Kirkan is happy to tell everybody, and people should recognize the resource problem, although it is not fully done yet, but to a large extent, we have set our priorities right now. And the resource problem, to some very significant extent, has been dealt with the introduction of Global T20. And then hopefully in the coming times, there will be more of those events. And, obviously there has to be one winter event and, which could be played indoors in Rogers Center and so forth. So there could be possibly more solutions that we come towards, but resource problem was the most serious and most important one. From there on, the technical side, the people, those who know cricket well, the marketing side, those who know what we need to do with the resources, financial resources now available, um, all this rest of the equation can be put in place. But it took time. I mean, people should value the contribution that a volunteer board has done by just doubling up the resources, and where so many of the full members have not been able to put these leagues together. South Africa, Sri Lanka, I can name few others. They have not been able to put, England is just doing now the 100 over one. And so Cricket Canada has been able to do a miraculous work by bringing global T20 to Canada.
Yeah.
So the equation is being set right. The ingredients of growth are now there. There's a schools program, there are youth, and there's resources, and then we could advance to next stage of the development now, because certain portions of hard work has been done by the Canada board.
Yeah. So with that, I'm getting a lot of questions, and we are we are almost over 1 hour. So my director is queuing me, and looks like and as we talked about, we very soon we have to do another episode of this program. But this one topic, because I got a lot of questions for women cricket. The girls, their parents, they're asking a lot of questions. So I just want to get a quick response from you. Where is the women cricket? Because they have some question like they've been trying. And same thing for men's cricket team too. It's a very high turnover, and especially in women cricket, you'll see this one or two girl in one tournament and they're gone, right?
Mhm.
They are complaining they don't have lot of facilitations. They go to tours. They point out something I have not get the chance to research it, that like the women team helmet doesn't have a Cricket Canada logo, right? You'll be a better person to let me know if this is right or no. I haven't get a chance to research that. But they are very heartbroken, the women team. So I just want to know your point of view, like what's in and why there is so much high turnover, especially in women cricket. Again, on the seniors team too. There is few questions on seniors team, but let's talk about the women cricket first. What their domestic setup is, right? What's their selection criteria? Why high turnover? What is the future for women cricket, and what the future tours are? So if you can get like something really quickly.
Okay, so first of all, let's understand one thing very, very clearly. We recently did a women's national championship
Okay.
for the first time in Cricket Canada history.
Okay.
A women's cricket coordinator, a committee was appointed of females, duly recommended by their respective boards from BC, Alberta, Ontario, and so forth. So they were given the charge of their own affairs with a properly appointed board member. In the beginning, when this committee was set up, I was the the board member in charge of women's cricket. Thereafter, the after myself, and you know how many things I can put my hands into, and so I once the process was established, uh, the portfolio was handed over to the vice president. So the women's team went to play a qualifier. Women's team also went to play a tournament in West Indies, and then we did the national championship, and we also now have a board member elected to Cricket Canada board who's a female. These are all firsts that happened in my most recent, term. Not that I did it, but
And who is this person? Sorry, if you can update me that.
it went to what I said was it went to Vice President Rishwal Bajwa, and now the women's program is a part of portfolio of Mr. Dillon, Harjinder Dillon.
Okay.
He comes from BC, and
Okay.
he's the
Great.
portfolio in charge. The the problem with women cricket is the numbers are low, and there is a lot of disagreement within that group with each other and with the provincial associations where they come from. There was some discussion recently in which I suggested that the Cricket Canada takes the women program from grassroots level and up into its own hands and create a national women's league.
Okay.
So all provincial, memberships are then transferred into. All teams are transferred into the national league. Not that this is fully completed yet, but all I'm wanting to tell you is that there's a discussion, and there are conversations as to how it will happen. Now, Cricket Canada does not have the grounds and the resources. They will come from the provincial bodies where the teams are there. So our point of view is, or my point of view is, and again, subject to approval in Cricket Canada board and then with the membership, is that this league and the fixtures that belong to this league will have a priority on any other schedules that the provinces and the leagues have. So if we can decide by December or certain time in the end of November or December, early before the leagues decide their own schedules, that this is going to be the schedule of the National Women's League, then that schedule is sent to the provinces and they will have to priority allocate those resources to those teams. Women cricket and the youth league, the pathway for school cricketers to go into the hardball cricket. Those two are very high priority items with Cricket Canada. And soon, we are in the process of developing or appointing two development officers in the country. One in most likely in the west part of the country, and one in the eastern part. Allocated two development officers that will have the priority agenda of school cricket, elementary cricket awareness, and women's cricket.
So
So
quickly on high turnover.
but it's going to take time because provinces have to be involved in this part because certain provinces say their own women teams belong to them and they should be able to do whatever they want and all this. I mean, there's always a jurisdiction issue and there's always matters that are people feel that Canada is encroaching in their responsibility and so forth. But since the numbers are low, Cricket Canada is not supposed to be involved in running provincial leagues or grassroots level leagues. That is not our role. Our role is to support the provinces in developing cricketers. But since the numbers are low at the start, I would say that on temporary basis, if the membership would at some stage buy into this idea that Cricket Canada becomes the owner of this portfolio
Mhm.
or women's cricket for a certain amount of time until such time women cricket attracts larger numbers. Uh, Probably we'll go with that route, and focus on the school children, for example. 48% of the school children that have been introduced to cricket are females. Now, where are they going from there on? So once the school program and youth league is begin, that's where will be this part where the women cricket will take hold from universities, colleges. There are other places where these players can be harnessed from and some consistency brought. I would say the women cricket has to move towards self-governance, and that the program is largely run by them with support from Cricket Canada, and this is what I thought we had introduced when I had the portfolio, but it's withered away because in certain parts of the country, the population of women cricketers has moved into some different groups and which are not associated with Cricket Canada and so forth. So the problem is very complex.
Do
And
we do we do we get any funding for cricket for women cricket, like from ICC, from any other
there's
places?
no dedicated funding as part of the funding that we get from the government. And we also get from the ICC is supposed to be going for women cricket.
What about the high turnover in women cricket? Girls come, they show a lot of interest to play cricket. They play a little bit level, they get to the Canadian level, and then they disappears. They have their own complaints. Do you ever get a chance to talk to them one on one? Like why they come? They spend so much time. They spend resources. They use resources, and then they disappear.
Well, I mean, if someone wants to talk to me in a group or whatever, I'll make myself available.
Okay.
Apologies. I will make myself available, but there's a board member who has a responsibility for female cricket, women cricket, and there's also the general manager, and those channels are always open for conversation to move forward in a systemic way. But if some of them or few of them, if they want to, have a session or conversation with myself,
Yeah.
I would actually be very willing to have a public session. I mean, you can bring
So
your
can
camera.
in the next program, can I invite one or two female representative or players in this, kind of an important question? Uh, uh, you know.
Okay. So first of all, the answer is yes.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. The second, I mean, always have a, I also would like to come prepared in the sense that what is the question line
Sure.
that
Sure.
because I may have to get information from a general manager or the director in charge, or maybe talk to some coaches and as to what happened or what the scenario is. But
Yeah.
but
No, that's good because we just want to open a venue so people can talk to each other, right? The way like we're talking to you and you
but
are
but
giving a lot of information which
but
even I didn't know,
but
right?
but I only have a one sort of I don't want to call it precondition, but a limit. I can only speak with people that are members of Cricket Canada. So the association or the team or the player.
Because I'm surprised by the amount of the questions I got from female player. So there's a lot of enthusiasm, right? The girls are really wanted to play, but they're frustrated a little bit on sometimes
No,
lack
we
of
are all. Why are they
opportunity and
frustrated?
all
We
that.
are frustrated that women program is not what it can be. And I mean, I am the one who has said few times publicly, and that possibility of Cricket Canada winning a World Cup is much higher in women's cricket than male cricket.
Yeah, we have
So,
some decent cricket female players in Canada. Amazing
you
players.
see, not only the current one, the general strength of the physical strength or the
Yeah.
athletic ability of Canadian females is enormous. I mean, so let's not discount the women cricket. If it gets organized, I'm also certain it will become more popular very soon. Also,
Yeah. So we're going to jump to the next question, and we almost almost 1.5 hour, and we have to probably cut it at one. It's already 1 hour 20 minutes. We're going to cut it in the next 10 minutes. The next question is with a lot of people are asking, and I want to understand that. Say like why there is a majority of all the players selected are from. I'm from Ontario. Nothing against Ontario, great province. Are from Ontario, right? Most of the trainings happens in Ontario, right? And you must be Cricket Canada must be have a logical reason to do that. So, would you like to explain that?
okay. First of all, I think as I already said, it goes back to selection again.
Sure.
I don't want to say ask the selectors, but provinces. Ontario has only two selectors. Three other selectors and the chairman of the selectors is not from Ontario. So majority of the selection team is non-Ontario.
Okay.
So obviously, if selectors are selecting more players from Ontario, they must feel that at the national level, when it comes to representing Canada, the best team should always represent. And that's not a place where some kind of preferential quota, somebody from there or there has to happen. That is not a right way to deal with this question. So I am actually happy that while the majority of the selectors are from not from Ontario, and including the chairman, they are doing what they're supposed to be doing for a very I mean, no selection is perfect, and no selection is going to be perfect because everybody is going to have a different perspective.
So, what?
But to
How
to
much?
that
What portion
extent, the
of
consensus
cricket?
is there. Yes.
What
So,
portion of cricket plays in Ontario or then rest of the Canada? Do you have any numbers like the total amount of cricket played in Canada? What is province
no,
wide?
I don't have numbers in front of me, so I don't want to
Just
quote something which I would say it's a bit around 60 to 65% of cricketers are in Ontario.
okay.
The second largest number is in BC. Third largest number is in Alberta,
Okay.
and the fourth one will be Saskatchewan. Mm, Fifth one could be Manitoba, and then everybody else, then Quebec and so forth. So, so the why do we do it in Ontario? The national team training.
Yeah.
Um, it's cheaper to bring in two people from one from BC or two from BC and one from Alberta to Ontario, and then taking 12 to Calgary from Ontario. So is the financial
The
aspect,
logistic issues.
logistics, and so this is why it is done here. It doesn't mean that everything happens here. Under 19 tournaments many times have happened in Manitoba. They have happened in BC. Some tournaments have happened in Alberta as well. So we try to take them here and wherever we can, but then you need certain type of grounds infrastructure, and also, the cost of carrying around players throughout the country is a very big issue for Canada. So us being such a big, huge country, and many times it's cheaper to go to West Indies or London, England, than going to Vancouver. So we have our issues with the resources. Much of the time, resources dictate as to where these events are happening. But there are no events that only happen here and others don't get part of it.
Yeah,
When we
and
went to,
I'm getting a lot of questions about selection. So I think what I'll do, because it's not fair to ask all the question to Mr. Ranjit Saini, we will try to bring one or two selectors by himself, so we can ask the questions with them. And also, as Mr. Ranjit says, we will try to get a woman coordinator for all the questions. So that will be a next program. I see a lot of questions on the side, but we will skip that. So, Mr. Sani, thank you very much for your time. But before I let you go, I just want you to, do you have any message for the enthusiasts of cricket in Canada and all over the world, well wishers, um, and then the people who really care about cricket Canada? Sometime if I not agreeing with your policies, it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that I don't like cricket or I don't want cricket to be prosper in Canada. So, any message from the president of
you
cricket
see, the
Canada?
the one thing that people need to appreciate and consider is, uh, unlike the president of Greater Canada is like a superintendent of a multi-story building, who gets all the complaints and who gets all the requests. Somebody's fridge is broken and somebody's window is broken and somebody wants a new paint and somebody wants new cabinets and somebody wants a new shower. And there's only that one part that exists. So, the priority setting is Cricket Canada's biggest challenge, and because people want the teams to perform, people want grassroots cricket, people want young players in the team, yet the experienced players are needed to perform good to certain level in international competitions. So the challenge that for Cricket Canada board faces is prioritization as to what comes first. So, and we've been, I would say, admit openly publicly that we've been firefighting for a good part of last 20, 30 years. And we qualified for the World Cup 4 times. What did it bring us? Any sponsorships? Did it bring India to come and play here? Did it bring all this stuff? Nothing happened. So unless the masses get behind the sport, unless there's more awareness, more people follow cricket, and we build our own strength to propel the game forward, this is not happening until such time we're all together and we have priorities that are well understood and people understand as to why what is happening first and what will happen next. So from that respect, I think a dialogue, an open dialogue, an honest dialogue needs to occur as to why the president says that grassroots is important. Why do we need to become a cricket nation first before we qualify for the World Cup? It doesn't mean that I don't prefer or don't support the idea of qualifying for the World Cups. For the ODI tournament, Cricket Canada assigned enormous amount of resources. I even had we even had a full-time board member available on scene to make decisions that were needed so that that come to the board, and he was fully empowered. Mohammed Sheikh was there in Namibia in the entire tournament. He had the authority. Right? I mean, there were issues we can say, but then it is not the system wasn't there. There are issues. People say why this wasn't selected in playing 11, and he wasn't playing 11. But the selection committee for the matches contained the coach, contained the captain. there was a selector on site. The previous captain and the most talented player in the squad, Nitish Kumar, was also part of the selection committee who was selecting playing 11 in the tournament. Mohammad Sheikh participated on those meetings all the time, from with respect to board nomination, who watched that proper discussion was taking place. So, in spite of all this fact, afterwards, and people are commenting, and generally so, because they are passionate about the game, so they have a right to feel the way they want. But Cricket Canada had put in place all the mechanisms, all the strength, all the resources that it could provide to make proper decisions. So it is not, you have to have a faith that your board, that people, those who are managing Cricket Canada at this moment, the entire board, do not get up in the morning and then say, okay, I'm going to go and do something wrong today. No, we operate under certain constraints, which are financial resource and what is available on the bench, and so it's going to be a long process. But the process has begun with the introduction of Global T20, which has created opportunities for the players to play and show their skill and gain experience by playing with and against good quality international players to get lessons from, to see where they are. And it has provided certain resources. It has also created a certain level of awareness in this country that should bring now more sponsorship and more resources. So you're into a promising future. Your board, Cricket Canada board, has led Canadian cricket to a promising future. Uh, the people, those who come after next, will then take it to another plateau. And eventually, if we all continue to work together and continue to focus on what is important going forward, and then have proper priorities, then I do believe that there's a good future.
Yeah. So we talked about GT20. It's an amazing thing happened to Canada. Like then on a cricket scene, Canada has got introduced. So GT20 is one of the leagues which will people talked about in the world. I do go to different countries to cover cricket. I go to PSL, I cover it, and different amazing. So first year there was only one Canadian player. This time I think it was six people in the team and two were playing. What's next in
One more. Every year it is going to increase by one.
oh why? So what happened after 11 years? All Canadian
I think in the end they're going to be allowed to have five foreign players
and then six
playing in
Canadian players.
five foreign players playing in the playing 11,
Uh-huh.
uh, and uh, and then seven will be six will be Canadian at the end. I
So
mean,
so different leagues
this
in the
is
world they
what
have
the
this they
yeah.
have this format. If the five players playing or seven players playing, they have emerging player and under 19 player. So is T20 GT20 is are you pushing anything like that to them?
No, I mean, I'm not spending my money on it. It's investors' money. Investors
But
have
Cricket
to.
Canada who wants to give all the structure, right? Because
No, so the structure is simply because the training of Canadian players is also their duty, by the
okay.
way. So we could not impose a sudden high level of Canadian players, because we honestly believe that and agree that Canada may not be able to put forward that level of high performing players in 50s or 60s to begin with. So, but on the other side, we also tied them in the way saying training of Canadian players is your business.
Okay.
So we're introducing one additional player every year now. So, and in the meantime, they need to start concentrating on the training part of Canadian players now, because that is part of the understanding. So and then if the quality of the league at some point is begins to going to slip down,
Yeah.
because Canadian players were not so-called par with the foreign players, then GT20 is to blame. The party that owns is to blame because we gave them time to invest in Canadian players and in their training part. So it's a very wise business decision in which allowed global T20 has to have a certain level of expert cricket played, where so that the viewer, the people those who watch cricket on TV, they produce the revenues. The revenues come from sponsorships and the broadcasting rights. So to more viewers, more revenues. For that, they have to produce the event, which is better and better, keeps the interest. On the other side, we could also not do a tournament which did not provide any benefits to Canadian players. So a balance was found that started with that the year one, there will be one player and two and three, which gives them incremental responsibility to train Canadian players and then take them do whatever they need to do to maintain their quality. So it's a smart way of dealing with a very major issue, a complex problem. Let's see what the future holds.
That's great. It's been great talking to you. We want to thank you for your time and your efforts you've been doing for cricket in Canada and for Cricket Canada tirelessly. But before I let you go, I want to remind you that you have promised that you will continue talking to us and come participating in our program. I have a lot of big list of things we want to talk to you, but we already crossed 1.5 hour. I don't want to, like take a lot of people time. But thank you very much again, Mr. Ranjit Saini, and it was really nice talking to you. I hope our viewers really enjoyed the program and they got some information out of it. I know you must have some questions. Please shoot those questions, and we will definitely try to cover
Uh,
those
I
topics
would
in our next program.
I would honestly try to party. I enjoyed this conversation with you. First of all, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. I'll be very happy to come back to the program. As a matter of fact, if you want to set up weekly or monthly or bi-weekly, a date with Ranjit Saini, I'll be happy to um, put myself forward and if we can also do these programs more on specific topics,
Yes.
for example, high performance or women's cricket and youth cricket and what or kind of finances for that.
I had a long list of topics we couldn't cover, 2 pages. So definitely we'll doing more programs. And thank you for
Definitely,
your
I'll
opportunity.
be happy to take questions from your viewers also. If I need to, but
Sure.
let's I'll encourage everyone to be to be very candid and very straightforward and very objective in the questions.
Yes. No, that's the plan,
I mean,
inshallah. And definitely we'll love to have you back in our studios next time, and we'll try to set up a studio, and we'll probably sit right in front of each other and we'll do the program. But for
thank
now,
you.
want to thank you, and I want to thank you all the viewers who stayed with us for almost 1 hour 40 minutes. And so from Sports Channel Studio, this is Farooq Siddiqui. We were talking to Mr. Ranjit Saini, President Cricket Canada. Thank you very much, and see you guys very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.